Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I have two mouse pads that are new to the market, two mouse pads that are very, very good, both of which are in different respective classes. I have the Vaxee PB being a cloth soft surface, and I have the TJ Exclusives Hard CeraPad, which is a ceramic coated hard pad with a glass core. Both of these pads, again, are very, very good in the respective classes. We're going to get into each of them, but the one we're going to get into first is the CeraPad. I have the PTFE core pad control skates on my Superlight, and I have glass skates on my Ninjutsu Katana, and I can say that the mouse pad actually does feel very, very good for PTFE skates as well as glass skates. In the inner hand movements, the initial friction, the glass skates almost make it feel like you are moving an object around, a hockey puck around on a air hockey table. It feels very, very good. What the CeraPad does and what they advertise it to do is improve accuracy with low initial friction over other hard pads and very, very good stopping power. And I think on their website they claim like 20%, or no, the gamers who use the pad had like a 20% increase in their aiming scores. And I don't know if that's 1 gamer, 10 gamers, 50 gamers, 100, etc. You kind of get the point. But for me personally, and the most important thing I will tell you is that the stopping power on the CeraPad actually is quite good as they claim. I actually enjoy it with PTFE skates. And interestingly enough, even with glass skates, even though I have that air hockey puck feel on the pad, the stopping power is actually quite good, and I will demonstrate that for you guys in the firing range in Apex. If you guys are able to see, I never feel like the mouse over-rotates. I don't feel like it is sliding around in my hand or on the pad. So interestingly, even with glass skates, it is a very sturdy experience. And going a little bit further about the performance of the pad, how it feels in-game with both PTFE and glass skates, the best thing I can compare it to is the SkyPad 2.0 and 3.0, and I would say that the CeraPad is almost a mix of the two, whereas the 2.0 was a little bit rougher, but had a little bit more control, a little slower glide. The 3.0 opened that up and had a faster glide, a faster feel to it, almost like the air hockey table feel, depending on your skates. But the CeraPad has that feel with the glide, with the mouse that you're using, but maintains a higher level of control like the SkyPad 2.0. And I find the mixture to be a perfect blend for a hard pad with the way I prefer the pad to feel and how I prefer the pad to play. So I had no issue with stopping power. I had no issue with tracking, with flicks. Everything feels very, very fluid. And as far as a comfort level, the pad is a little bit elevated, almost like the SkyPad 2.0. So if you had an issue with the lip, you might have the issue on the CeraPad as well. But overall, a very, very good performing pad. I think that there are a few things with the pad that I should point out, and that is the pad out of the box almost appears like it has some granulation in it. It kind of throws off the cohesiveness of how it looks on your desk. It's almost as though it looks a little bit dirty out of the box, but overall, when it is laying on your desk, you don't really see it quite as much. So if visuals and aesthetics are something that kind of concern you, that is something I would point out, but overall, the feel of the pad is super consistent, super smooth, and I did not have any issues feeling any bumps or any breaks in the speed, the fluidity of the pad while using it, so I don't think you should be overly concerned. For me personally, over the SkyPad 2.0 and 3.0, I do perform better on the CeraPad. I like the feel of the pad a little bit more, again, because of that mix between the 2.0 and 3.0 as far as speed and feel. And it is holding up well with glass skates. It's holding up well with PTFE skates. I am a little bit skeptical on how the pad is going to hold up over time with glass skates, but time is to tell. So far, everything appears to be rather good. And, you know, full disclosure, CeraPad did send this pad out to me for review. They even customized it with fresh reviews on the bottom right. But something like that will never and would never affect my opinions and giving you guys the honest truth about how I feel about a pad. And all things considered, I just think I play better on this than the SkyPad 2.0 and 3.0. And getting into the Vaxee PB, what they have done is they've removed heat sub from the Vaxee PA, heat sublimation, which actually has affected and adjusted the speed of the surface. I would say that the pad compares to the Grandmaster SE with how the pad feels to the touch. But performs much, much better than the GSR-C, the GSR, and the Grandmaster Special Edition in the sense that you get a very nice level of initial friction, of static friction that is, I would say, closer to the side of control for those slow movements that you need generally in tack shooters. But when it comes time to move your mouse fast, to move your mouse in those flicking movements, the pad actually just opens up and has a really nice, brilliant level of speed that doesn't feel too fast, doesn't feel too slow, and is, I would say, more on the speedy side than control and balance. And it just comes together to make a really awesome package for a cloth pad. You get that control for tack shooters, you get those flicks when you need them in tack shooters, and you get that nice dynamic broad range of movement without any restriction, without any mud, without any tugginess for those dynamic movements. Now, given that this pad is after the Vaxee PA, the Zowie GSR-C, can it be affected by humidity? I believe a lot of people felt that those pads were affected by humidity. I personally have not had an issue with humidity on the pad yet, but the issue more so lies just in the general nature of the pad with glass skates. With glass skates, surprisingly, the pad actually does feel a little muddy in the sense that you get a underlying tug with your movements on glass skates. So could that be beneficial for somebody who has a feeling of too much speed when they use glass skates in tack shooters? It definitely could. It adds a level of control with glass skates. But generally, I think a lot of us, when we use glass skates, are looking for that faster speed, that more broad, opened movement without restriction, without that feeling of tug. So for me, I wouldn't use glass skates on this pad in particular. But if you are still somebody who is into PTFE skates, you're maining PTFE skates, this pad is absolutely beautiful. I would probably choose this personally over my personal cloth favorite, which is the X10. I think that for me, this level of speed and control for flicking movements and those slow movements, it's a really, really nice balance. And I absolutely recommend the pad as long as you're not somebody who gets towards the bottom right of your pad, as this could absolutely throw you off in game, the logo. And as long as you are someone who is not looking for just an aggressively fast pad like a Cordura pad. If you really like a super, super nice balance in the way that I've described it, the pad is absolutely beautiful. The only other thing that bothered me with the Vaxee PB is I feel that dust particles get stuck so easily into this pad. I feel like I'm just constantly brushing it off, which can get rather irritating. But as far as the level of cushioning of the pad, I think that they have done a phenomenal job. I think the silicone base just makes the pad feel higher quality. It makes it sit down and just stay flat. This thing will not move, so it performs very well for the purposes of what it is intended to do. And the level of cushioning between the top surface and that silicone base, I feel, is very, very comfortable. But your mouse doesn't sink in and you don't really sink into the pad. So it keeps your level of consistency where you need it to be. And I am certainly not going to hide the ball from you all. In my other review of the Vaxee PA, I said I felt it was the same thing as the Zowie GSR-SE. And the Vaxee PB, in my opinion, is the same thing as the PA and the Zowie GSR-SE, subtracting the heat sub on the surface and adding a silicone base under the old foam material of the Zowie GSR-SE. But what does that correlate into? In my personal opinion, it correlates into a much better experience, a much better glide, a more controlled glide for both initial friction, static friction, as well as dynamic friction. But again, the dynamic friction stays relatively quick. It's something that feels good, feels open, never feels muddy, never feels tuggy. but definitely an increase over the Zowie GSRSC, whether it be just a bit, but enough to make it feel, in my opinion, twice as good of a pad. And again, one of the best cloth pads I have tried recently. I would definitely recommend the pad. I like the balance of it. I like how it feels. I like the texture of it. There's just a lot to like about the pad. As far as the longevity of the pad, I do think that this is, like all cloth surfaces, will deteriorate over time compared to hard surfaces. But if you like that level and mixture of speed, if you were looking for a better PA, a better GSRSE, the Vaxee PB, in my opinion, is a phenomenal cloth pad. So guys, that is it for my initial coverage, my initial review. Two pads that I think are absolutely phenomenal in their respective brackets, whether it be hard or soft cloth. Two pads that I definitely recommend for the purposes of competitive play. Two pads I played very, very well on and that I will be using a lot in the near future. So I will update you guys on the overall longevity, how long I think the Vaxee PB will last, whether or not I have any issues with the ceramic coating with glass skates. I will keep you guys posted, but for right now, two mouse pads again that are absolutely 100% certified fresh. I hope that helped, guys. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.